Electrical codes and guidelines for suspended ceiling wiring are important to understand. The National Electrical Code Article 300 Wiring Methods Section 300.12c covers support spacing for conductors. Section 300.15 addresses raceways and cable trays as methods for containing conductors. ANSI/TIA/EI-568C1. Standard Section 5.24 specifies support spacing requirements for horizontal telecommunications cabling. Power wiring requires specific spacing. Conductors should be supported at least every 1.8 meters or 6 feet. For mounting, wires should be secured using approved clips, straps, or hangers. Avoid draping wires between structural members or ductwork. Instead, use cable trays or raceways to bundle and protect multiple conductors. Low-voltage wiring requires specific spacing. Follow the spacing requirements specified in Section 5.24 of ANSI/TIA/EI-568C1. For support, use cable trays, wire baskets, or approved hangers to support low-voltage cabling. Identification is important, so clearly identify low-voltage cables to differentiate them from power lines. Cable trays are also important. Cable trays are required when multiple conductors are present and need to be bundled together for safety and organization. Tray support should be spaced at intervals that comply with the manufacturer's specifications. Trays should not be overfilled. There are also additional considerations to keep in mind. Ensure that wiring is accessible for inspection and maintenance. Protect wiring from potential damage by equipment or personnel. Follow local fire codes and regulations regarding wiring installations in suspended ceilings. Consider some useful publications such as the International Building Code Chapter 27 Electrical Power and Lighting Systems, the National Electrical Estimator Section 6 Cable Tray Systems, and the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers IEEE ASTD 142-2000 IEEE Recommended Practice for Grounding of Industrial and Commercial Power Systems. Firstly, regarding Section 300.12c of the NEC, it is crucial to understand that this section emphasizes the mechanical execution of work. This means that all wiring installations must be completed in a neat and workmanlike manner. The support requirements ensure that the wiring is not only aesthetically pleasing but also structurally sound, preventing sagging or displacement that could lead to damage or electrical hazards. Secondly, Section 300.15 of the NEC broadens the scope to include methods for containing conductors, specifically mentioning raceways and cable trays. These are vital for organizing and protecting wiring, especially in commercial settings where numerous cables and conductors are present. Raceways provide a fully enclosed pathway for conductors, offering protection against physical damage and environmental factors. Cable trays, on the other hand, are open support systems that allow for easy access and management of cables. Thirdly, the ANSI/TIA/EI-568C1 standard is essential for telecommunications cabling. Section 5.24 outlines precise support spacing requirements to maintain signal integrity and prevent cable stress. This standard is particularly relevant for low-voltage cabling, ensuring that data transmission is reliable and efficient. This section often gets overlooked, but it is critical for ensuring that network performance is not compromised due to improper cable installation. Focusing on power wiring, the 1.8 meter or 6 feet support spacing requirement is a minimum standard to prevent conductors from sagging and potentially coming into contact with other objects or surfaces. Approved clips, straps, or hangers are designed to securely hold the wires without damaging the insulation. These supports must be appropriately sized for the type and number of conductors they are holding. Avoiding draping wires directly on structural members or ductwork is crucial for several reasons. Firstly, direct contact with metal surfaces can cause abrasion and damage to the wire insulation over time. Secondly, ductwork can vibrate, which can also lead to wear and tear on the wiring. Thirdly, such installations are not compliant with electrical codes and can pose a safety hazard. Cable trays and raceways are not just for aesthetic purposes, they provide a structured and protected pathway for multiple conductors. This bundling not only keeps the wiring organized but also reduces the risk of damage and electrical interference. Cable trays are particularly useful in situations where frequent changes or additions to the wiring system are anticipated. When discussing low-voltage wiring, adherence to the ANSI/TA/EIMNS 568C1 standard is paramount. The spacing requirements specified in Section 5.24 are designed to minimize electromagnetic interference and ensure optimal performance of telecommunications cables. Cable trays, wire baskets, or approved hangers are essential for supporting low-voltage cabling. These support systems should be installed in a way that prevents the cables from being bent or stressed, which can affect their performance. Clearly identifying low-voltage cables is a best practice that can save time and prevent errors during maintenance or troubleshooting. Labeling cables with their function or destination makes it easier to trace and manage the wiring system. Cable trays are essential when multiple conductors need to be bundled together for safety and organization. The spacing of tray support should always comply with the manufacturer's specifications to ensure that the tray can handle the weight of the cables without sagging or collapsing. Overfilling cable trays can lead to overheating and damage to the cables. It also makes it difficult to access and maintain the wiring system. Additional considerations include accessibility, damage prevention, and fire safety. Wiring must be accessible for inspection and maintenance. This means that there should be adequate clearance around the wiring and that the access points should be easily located. Protecting wiring from potential damage by equipment or personnel is crucial. This can involve using conduit barriers or other protective measures. Following local fire codes and regulations regarding wiring installations in suspended ceilings is non-negotiable. These codes are designed to prevent fires and ensure the safety of building occupants. Referring to publications such as the International Building Code, the National Electrical Estimator, and IEEE standards can provide valuable guidance on proper wiring practices. These resources offer detailed information on code requirements, installation techniques, and best practices for electrical systems. Accessibility is key to ensuring that electrical systems can be easily inspected, maintained, and repaired. This means that wiring should be routed in a way that allows access to junction boxes, splices, and other components. Adequate clearance should be provided around electrical equipment to allow technicians to perform their work safely and efficiently. Damage prevention is another critical consideration. Wiring should be protected from physical damage caused by equipment, personnel, or environmental factors. This can involve using conduit, cable trays, or other protective measures. Wiring should also be routed away from areas where it is likely to be damaged, such as near sharp edges or heavy machinery. Fire safety is paramount in electrical installations. Wiring should be installed in accordance with local fire codes and regulations to minimize the risk of fire. This includes using fire-rated cables and conduits, as well as ensuring that wiring is properly grounded to prevent electrical faults. The International Building Code provides comprehensive guidelines for electrical power and lighting systems, covering a wide range of topics from wiring methods to emergency power systems. The National Electrical Estimator offers valuable information on cable tray systems, including installation costs, materials, and labor requirements. The IEEE standards provide recommended practices for grounding industrial and commercial power systems, helping to ensure the safety and reliability of electrical installations. In summary, proper wiring practices for suspended ceilings involve careful attention to detail, adherence to electrical codes and standards, and a commitment to safety. By following these guidelines, engineers and contractors can ensure that electrical systems are installed correctly and operate reliably for years to come. Now, let us consider more granularly the specifics of NEC Article 300. This article provides a comprehensive overview of wiring methods and general requirements for electrical installations. It covers everything from the types of wiring allowed to the methods for supporting and protecting conductors. Compliance with Article 300 is essential for ensuring the safety and reliability of electrical systems. Section 300.4, Protection against physical damage, is particularly important. This section requires that wiring be protected from physical damage by using conduit, cable trays, or other approved methods. The type of protection required depends on the location and environment of the wiring. For example, wiring in exposed locations may need to be protected by rigid metal conduit, while wiring in concealed locations may be protected by flexible metal conduit. Section 300.11, Securing and Supporting, outlines the requirements for securing and supporting wiring. This section requires that wiring be securely fastened to the building structure to prevent it from sagging or being damaged. The type of support required depends on the type of wiring and the spacing between supports. For example, non-metallic cable must be supported every 1.4 meters or 4.5 feet, while metallic conduit must be supported every 3 meters or 10 feet. Section 300.14, Terminations, addresses the requirements for terminating wiring. This section requires that wiring be properly terminated to prevent loose connections and electrical hazards. Terminations must be made in approved junction boxes or enclosures. Conductors must be properly sized and insulated for the voltage and current they will carry. Section 300.22, Wiring in ducts, plenums, and other air handling spaces provides specific requirements for wiring in these areas. These spaces are often used to circulate air throughout a building, so it is important to ensure that wiring in these areas does not pose a fire hazard. Wiring in ducts and plenums must be plenum rated, meaning that it is designed to not produce excessive smoke or toxic fumes in the event of a fire. Now let us discuss ANSI/TIA/EIA standards in more detail. The ANSI/TIA/EIA-568 series of standards is essential for telecommunications cabling systems. These standards define the requirements for cabling components, installation practices, and performance testing. Compliance with these standards ensures that cabling systems will support current and future applications. The ANSI/TIA/EIA-568C0 standard provides a general overview of telecommunications cabling systems. It covers topics such as cabling topologies, performance parameters, and testing requirements. This standard is a good starting point for understanding the basics of telecommunications cabling. The ANSI/TIA/EIA-568C1 standard specifies the requirements for commercial building telecommunications cabling. This standard covers topics such as cable types, connectors, and installation practices. It also includes requirements for cable testing and certification. The ANSI/TIA/EIA-568C2 standard specifies the requirements for balanced twisted pair cabling components. This standard covers topics such as cable construction, performance characteristics, and testing methods. It is essential for ensuring that twisted pair cables meet the performance requirements of high-speed data networks. The ANSI/TIA/EIA-568C3 standard specifies the requirements for optical fiber cabling components. This standard covers topics such as fiber types, connectors, and installation practices. It also includes requirements for cable testing and certification. Optical fiber cabling is increasingly used in commercial buildings to support high bandwidth applications. Regarding cable trays, there are several types available. Ladder cable trays are the most common type of cable tray. They consist of two side rails connected by rungs. Ladder cable trays are strong and provide good ventilation for cables. Trough cable trays have solid bottoms and ventilated covers. They provide more support for cables than ladder cable trays and are often used for sensitive cables that need extra protection. Channel cable trays are smaller than ladder and trough cable trays. They are often used for supporting small numbers of cables or for routing cables in tight spaces. Wire mesh cable trays are made of woven wire mesh. They are lightweight and easy to install. Wire mesh cable trays are often used for supporting low voltage cables. Cable tray supports are essential for ensuring that cable trays are properly supported. The type of support required depends on the type of cable tray and the weight of the cables it will carry. Common types of cable tray supports include wall-mounted brackets, ceiling-mounted hangers, and floor-mounted stands. Cable tray accessories include items such as cable clamps, splice plates, and divider strips. These accessories help to organize and secure cables in the cable tray. Cable clamps are used to secure cables to the cable tray. Splice plates are used to join sections of cable tray together. Divider strips are used to separate different types of cables in the cable tray. Cable fill is the amount of space in a cable tray that is occupied by cables. It is important to ensure that cable trays are not overfilled, as this can lead to overheating and damage to the cables. The NEC specifies the maximum allowable cable fill for different types of cable trays. Grounding cable trays is important for safety. Cable trays should be grounded to prevent electrical shock hazards. The NEC specifies the requirements for grounding cable trays. Bonding cable trays is also important for safety. Cable trays should be bonded together to ensure that they are at the same electrical potential. The NEC specifies the requirements for bonding cable trays. Now let us consider some installation best practices. Plan the cable tray layout carefully before starting the installation. Consider the location of equipment, the routing of cables, and the accessibility of the cable tray. Use appropriate cable tray supports for the type of cable tray and the weight of the cables it will carry. Install cable trays in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. Secure cables to the cable tray using cable clamps or other approved methods. Do not overfill cable trays. Ground and bond cable trays in accordance with the NEC. Inspect cable trays regularly for damage and wear. Addressing fire safety. Electrical fires can be caused by a variety of factors, including overloaded circuits, faulty wiring, and damaged insulation. Proper wiring practices can help to prevent electrical fires. Use fire-rated cables and conduits in areas where there is a high risk of fire. Install smoke detectors and fire alarms in buildings. Ensure that electrical systems are properly grounded to prevent electrical faults. Follow local fire codes and regulations regarding wiring installations. In closing, proper wiring practices are essential for ensuring the safety and reliability of electrical systems. By following the guidelines outlined in this discussion, engineers and contractors can help to prevent electrical hazards and ensure that electrical systems are installed correctly. Remember to always consult with a licensed electrical contractor for any electrical work.